gonna do 5 things that I love about this car and 5 things I actually don't like about this car. So, generally speaking, let's crack into it. First thing I love about this car, the looks. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, yes, there's been more quintessential designs previously in Lamborghini's years. However, the Huracan represents kind of a new coming of age for Lamborghini. A little bit more mature, a little bit more refined. The German technology from Audi and Volkswagen Group is trickling into it a little bit more than the previous generations. So that also gets into the second point, the refinement. This car is so much more refined than the Gallardo. I owned a Gallardo back in 2012. Absolutely loved that car. Had the manual gated transmission. It was phenomenal. However, even then, the interior was lacking. Like back in 2012, this car, I did buy it used, so it was a 2008, I believe I'm remembering that correct. Anyways, the car felt dated. Its leather just felt kind of, it didn't have the class that you expected, or even just the luxury that you would come to expect with Lamborghini. So with that being said, the Huracan is just a much more refined vehicle. It's a better platform. So the third point is actually the engine in this car. It's similar to its predecessors of the Gallardo. The V10 in this car is very similar to, or pretty much the exact same engine as the R8, which is similar to the Gallardo. With that being said, it does have a very specific exhaust note to Lamborghini. You hear this engine ripping down the road and you know it's a Huracan. The backfires that just absolutely don't need to be there, but they're there because of Lamborghini. It's you know, popcorn of hellfire. But anyways, with that going into the fourth point of why I love this car so much is the lineage. So that can be kind of said about any Lamborghini in general, to be honest. However, Lamborghini, despite its kind of shuffling of hands over the years with many different owners, it has always kind of been that big FU to whether you're looking at it from society, being like, hey, I'm successful, or hey, looking back at the original story of Ferrari, you can make a better car, but F you, I can do it better if you don't want to refine your vehicle. So I personally love the original story between Enzo Ferrari and Lamborghini, where the guy was like, hey, dude, stick to making your tractors and I'll make my cars just the way I want to. You don't know as much as I do. Lamborghini responded with a barrage of very successful designs. Anyways, despite the, you know, the shuffle of hands, so to speak, between many different owners of the company, the lineage has always been very fun. Its bold designs are just very ostentatious and they're just sculptural. They're bold. So going on to the fifth point and final point, the fifth and final point of why I love this car so much is actually kind of rather surprising for a supercar. It's the comfortability. You can put this car in Strada and it feels no other than other low expensive car. I mean, it could be an Audi RS7 or even an A7, and it would be a very similar driving experience. It can be very tame. Flip of a switch, quite literally, going down to Corsa, you get a very wild change. The exhaust note opens up, the throttle response is different, the whole car just becomes that Lamborghini that you have come to expect. However, this all comes together to have the options, and these options are what make it amazing. to be able to get into the car and flip the switch to Corsa, drive it for 15 minutes, put a smile on your face, or you have a road trip on some stints of rallies where you have the cops or whatever and you're going slow, put it into Strada, lower the exhaust note, and it's just a comfortable drive. So now that's 5 things I love about this car. How about 5 things I dislike about this car? If there are even 5 things I dislike. So the first of the 5 actually has nothing to do with the car itself other than people's reaction to the car. And I mean that specifically while driving. It can be quite nerve-wracking or dangerous when people are speeding up on the highway in vehicles that should not be reaching those speeds, trying to film you while they're driving. And come on, that's worse than texting and driving. You're not even looking at the road, one hand on the wheel, one hand on a cell phone, and both eyes completely on the Lamborghini. Anyways, that goes into kind of the second point. The reaction to people while you're away from your car makes it, nerve-wracking. You own such a nice car, you want to drive it, you want to go out to lunch perhaps, but does that restaurant or wherever you're eating have a good entry point? What's the parking like? What are the people like there? Are people gonna love your car and appreciate it, or are they gonna kick it and perhaps run over it like that guy had in New York City, I believe? That's it's kind of a split world where people either appreciate people's property or they don't. So that's kind of the second, that is the second point. It's a nerve-wracking experience leaving it places. The third point that I dislike about this car happens to be a double-edged sword. It's something that I love about the car, as mentioned, but it's also something that becomes quite obnoxious. The engine. Absolutely love the exhaust note. It's phenomenal. However, if you get into the situation where a call comes in, and sometimes you do need to take a call, whether it's business or family, you can't just ignore it for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it may be. You need to take the call, and if you're driving even softly on the highway, it's rather difficult to hear them, and you end up yelling into the microphone, or if you're doing hands-free, yelling into the hands-free service to kind of be able to communicate, and that gets rather annoying. The fourth and probably least important factor, but it still comes up, of things I might dislike or even hate about this vehicle, is the social connotation. Whether it's good or bad, there's just a heavy social connotation that comes with owning and driving a vehicle of this nature. Whether people are thinking, hey, this guy's an ass because he spent all this money on that car, or hey, he's cool because he has this car, people aren't exactly looking at you in the same way if you didn't own the car. There's definitely an opinion, and that can be said with any car. If you drive a POS, Honda Accord from 1992 or whatever, and it's rusted, people are going to think maybe he doesn't take care of himself or his car, or maybe he doesn't have the money. But it becomes a world of have-nots, and when you have, people become very focused. So that's, it definitely would never deter me from owning something like this, obviously. However, it becomes a little annoying when there's the comments here and there, whether positive or negative. It comes up. Fifth and final thing I dislike about this car is the price point of everything. And I know that may sound ridiculous for a car that costs this much money. However, when you're talking about the electric motor for your seat going out, I've read that some people have spent up to $10,000 to $16,000 to get a new seat and get it installed and get it synced with your system. So that's just ridiculous when you can imagine maybe at a normal dealership like Ford for like a F-150, you're probably spending $1,500 on the seat and motor, and then like maybe a few $100 to $1,000 on the install itself. It, you know, the price point for anything, even if you're doing it yourself, just gets expensive, very expensive. So with that being said, you can tell that all 5 of these points that I've mentioned about disliking the vehicle either didn't pertain to this vehicle exactly, or it essentially boils down to something petty. You can tell I absolutely love this car. Kudos Lamborghini for making this, and I am absolutely, again, hooked for life. I'm looking forward to this SUV coming out. Maybe I'll be able to save some pennies. I mean, that'd be a lot of pennies, but save some money, sell a few things here and there, and maybe I'll get the Lamborghini SUV. It kind of just depends on what size it ends up being. If you're into all the other vloggers like Salamandrin, you've noticed that it's been a debate whether it's going to be a larger or smaller SUV. So Cayenne versus Macan. I'm hoping for Macan. My apologies. I'm hoping for Cayenne. It's going to be a lot more kind of Lambo, and if it's kind of ballsy and can, you know, be off-road here and there, why not? That'd be awesome. But if it's just a $200,000 X3, that's pretty lame. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they unveil. I think they're doing an online unveiling in December. We'll see. Anyways, guys, appreciate you watching. I hope you've made it to this point in the video. Those who have, please hit that subscribe button if you already have. And again, turn on the notifications by hitting that little bell next to the subscribe button. So if you're new to the videos, my name's Connor Ahern. I'm an automotive enthusiast here in the Michigan area, and I hope you like the content. See you next time. Thanks, guys.
It's delicious.